Okay, so we're going to talk about calculating your grade when you have weighted averages or your tests are broken up into sections. So let's say you're in a data management class, and a lot of times your tests are broken up to knowledge, thinking, communication, application, and they weigh things differently. The knowledge is actually 25% of the test, thinking's 25, communication's 15, and application's 35. So there's different weightings depending on what you get out of things. Okay, and let's say this is an example of your score. So we're going to compare this to your um, what you overall total would have been and a straight percentage to what the weighted percentage might have been. Okay, so total. Well, let's figure out what the actual total of this test was. Um, we had a section out of 16, 17, 8, and 16 again. Okay, so your actual test was out of 16 plus 17 plus 8 plus 16 again, 57. Okay, so your test is out of 57. Your scores were 14, 15, 9, and 4. 9 and 4, 42. Okay, 42. So 42 divided by 57 gives us a 73.6 average. Okay, that's reasonable. Makes sense. That's what we got as a total. But how does the weightings and what we got in each of these weightings affect us? Well, the very first thing we have to do is figure out what our weightings are. Which is our weightings, the data or our score? And I have it as data because those are data weightings, I should have said. But which ones are going to be our weightings? The percentages or our actual scores here?
The scores.
The scores are actually our marks.
Oh, the data.
Yeah, this percentages are going to be what our weightings are, right? It makes sense. This is weighted as 25, 25, 15, 35. So we talked about weighted average before. And weighted average, X bar, which means your average. You take your X1, which I'm going to call score, times its weighting, which is W1. Okay, and then that, in this case, this is the percentage. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our score times our percentage under knowledge. Then we're going to add our score times our percentage for thinking. Okay, and that will be X2, W2. Then we're going to add score and percentage, score times percentage for communication, which is our X3, W3, plus X4, W4, which is our score and our percentage for application. Okay? But what's important here is we then have to divide everything by all of our weightings. W1 plus W2 plus W3 plus W4. And those weightings are, now the word percentage might seem confusing here, but the percentages are weightings here. This is what we mean by percentages. So W1, which is our knowledge weighting, which was 25, plus thinking weighting was 25, plus communication was 15, plus application was 35. Do you know what those all add up to? 100, right? And that makes sense. Now, our weightings might not always add up to 100. And if they don't, it's important that whatever the weightings are, we make sure we divide by that value. Because this one's 100, it makes it a little easier. But if it only added up to 50, we need to divide by our 50. Okay? So, with our weightings, what we're going to do is we're going to take the full value. Now, I know this can get confusing because what we're about to do is we're going to turn our scores into percentages right now. And then we're going to multiply a percentage times a percentage. That gets really confusing. So what we'll do instead is all of our scores, our X values, we'll make those the percentages. We'll find out what these percentages are. Okay, and the weightings, which I happen to call percentages, we'll take at their actual value here. Okay, so I'm actually going to plug in the value of 25, 25, 15, and 30. So this looks a little confusing, but this is what it's going to look like. X bar is equal to, okay, so our first, now this is technically the score, so I'll put it as a red percentage. So percentage in my knowledge, what do we get out of knowledge? Times our 25, okay, plus the percentage we got on thinking times the weighting was 25 for thinking, right? The percentage we got on communication times 15, because communication is a weighting of 15, plus the percentage we got on application times 35, because the weighting was 35. And we're going to divide by all of those values added up together, 25, 25. And we already know what are they going to equal, 100. So it's all going to be divided by 100. So let's actually figure out what our percentages are. What is 14 out of 16?
That one was 87.
Is it?
Something.
87.5. So 0.875. What's 15 out of 17?
88.
88.2. This one is going to be 0.5. And the last one, 9 out of 16. 5625. So 0.5625. Great. So these give us some good weightings because there's a bit of diversity there, right? This is like an 87%, an 88%, a 50%, and a 56%. Hence why we got 73, probably right in the middle of all of those, right? But with our weightings, we're going to see how we're going to get a bit of a different average here. So the first one was 0.875. This one was 0.882, 0.5, and 0.5625. So I'm actually going to write them all in black here. X bar is equal to. So percentage on knowledge, 0.875 times the value of 25 plus 0.882 times 25 plus 0.5 times 15 plus 0.5625 times 35. And again, because we added all of our weighting together, in this case it just so happens to be out of 100. Whoopsie. So let's put these values together. 0.875 times 25, 21.875. Anyone help me out with the next ones? 22.05. This is going to be 7.5, I think.
Yeah.
19.68 roughly. Okay. All divided by 100 still. So let's add all those values together. .105. Okay. Out of 100, what does that mean as a percentage? 71.1%. So, what actually happened here? 71.1%. With the weighting compared to our actual average, the weighting gave us a lower value. So, though we calculated our test to have a 73.6% average, in all reality with the weighting, we actually got a score a little below that. Not drastically, but 2%, right? And if that happened with every test, then I might go, well, why does my percentage seem to be 2% less? It's because of the way things are weighed. Okay, so you can calculate your own grades like that. You just got to stay organized, know what your weights are, and always divide by the total of your weights. That's very important when doing this. Okay, so kind of designate what the weights are.